Morning fog drifted low across the redwood hills of Northern California, folding the world into silence as the transport truck climbed the narrow road. Inside a padded crate, the young female bobcat lay still, her breath shallow, amber eyes open but distant. The forest outside felt ancient and patient, as if it had been waiting for her arrival. Long before anyone knew her name, Redwood Ridge Wildlife Refuge emerged quietly from the mist. Modest buildings tucked beneath towering trees. Caretakers moved with practiced calm, their voices low, respectful of the fragile life they carried. The bobcat did not resist when the crate door opened. She simply watched, muscles tense, every sense braced for another unknown turn. Her fur was matted along one flank, bearing the memory of wire and fear. A heel snare scar traced her leg like a faded warning. The rescuers had seen injuries like this before, but each one told a slightly different story. Hers was a story of survival interrupted, of instincts sharpened early by pain. They called her Luma, not officially, just a name that slipped into use during intake. It fit the way her eyes caught light even in shadow. She flinched at sudden movement, ears flattening, body coiling tight, ready to vanish. Yet there was no place left to run, only the quiet enclosure waiting beyond the gate. As the veterinary exam began, her pulse raced beneath gloved hands. The room smelled of antiseptic and damp fur. Luma hissed once, a thin sound, more exhaustion than threat. When the sedative finally eased her trembling, the tension did not leave her face. Even in sleep, she seemed to listen. Outside, rain began to fall, soft and steady, tapping the leaves like distant applause. One caretaker paused at the window, watching the forest darken. He wondered where Luma had learned such fear. Bobcats were born cautious, yes, but this was something heavier, something layered over instinct like a second skin. Midday brought complications. An old infection flared beneath the scar tissue, unseen but stubborn. The room tightened with urgency, voices overlapping, movements faster now. For a moment, it felt as though the forest itself held its breath. Luma's heart stuttered, then steadied, clinging to rhythm through human effort and quiet hope. In that suspended moment, her past seemed close enough to touch. A mother lost too soon. Nights scavenging near roads. A metallic snap that changed everything. None of it spoken, yet all of it present, written into her posture, her guarded stillness, her refusal to fully let go. When the crisis passed, relief arrived without celebration. No cheers, only softer movements, deeper exhales. Luma slept again, chest rising more evenly now. One caretaker brushed rainwater from his sleeve and whispered, almost apologetically, that she was safe here. The words were not for comfort. They were a promise. By evening, the storm thinned into mist. Luma was moved into a quiet recovery enclosure, surrounded by cedar and shadow. Somewhere beyond the fence, another bobcat called into the dusk. Her ears twitched at the sound, curiosity stirring beneath fatigue, a thread pulling her gently back toward herself. She did not answer the call, but she did not retreat from it either. Her breathing slowed, her muscles loosened just enough. Safety was not something she understood yet. It was only something she was beginning to feel, faintly, like warmth seeping through cold ground. As night settled over Redwood Ridge, the forest resumed its ancient rhythms. Owls shifted, branches creaked, water moved unseen. Luma slept beneath the redwoods, still wounded, still wary, but alive. Chapter 1 of her story closed not with certainty, but with possibility, quiet and real. Dawn returned quietly to Redwood Ridge, light filtering through fog like breath through glass. Luma woke without moving, eyes open, counting sounds. The enclosure smelled of damp earth and cedar. Nothing hurt more than it had the night before, yet her body remained folded inward, holding itself together by habit. A young caretaker named Maya entered first that morning, steps measured, voice barely above the wind. She had been told Luma startled easily, but she also noticed the cat's gaze tracking every motion. Not wild panic, assessment, the kind that waited for truth before deciding how to react. Food arrived on a shallow tray, placed carefully, never pushed closer. Luma did not eat. She watched steam rise from the meat, nostrils flaring, hunger fighting caution. Minutes passed. Maya stayed seated on the ground, still as barred. Eventually, Luma leaned forward, one paw testing the space. The first bite came fast, defensive. Then another, slower. Muscles loosened just enough to breathe between mouthfuls. Maya exhaled without meaning to. Small victories mattered here. They stacked quietly, like stones across a stream, never meant to be rushed. By midday, the refuge grew louder. Trucks came and went, Radios crackled. Somewhere nearby, another rescued animal cried out. Luma pressed herself against the back wall, ears flat, heart climbing again. The world beyond the enclosure felt too large, too unpredictable, too close. When a distant engine backfired, Luma lunged, striking the fence hard. Pain flashed through her injured leg, sharp and bright. She cried out, a raw sound that cut through the noise. Caretakers froze, then moved quickly, concern replacing routine. The calm morning fractured in an instant. Maya knelt beside the enclosure, speaking low, steady, refusing urgency. The vet followed, assessing the leg, the swelling, the fear beneath it all. Luma paced, limping now, panic circling tighter. For a moment, it felt like the past had found her again. The decision came fast. Temporary sedation, not failure, just protection. As the medicine worked, Luma's movements slowed, then softened. Her breathing steady, the tension drained from her frame like water from cracked ground. The crisis passed, but its echo lingered in the quiet room. Later, as afternoon light warmed the enclosure, Luma woke again. The pain had eased, the fear had not vanished, but it no longer screamed. Maya sat nearby, sketching notes, occasionally glancing up. Their eyes met. Luma did not retreat this time. She simply watched back. Something shifted then. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. This human did not demand anything. She waited. That patience felt unfamiliar, unsettling, and strangely safe. Luma lay down, curling her tail close, testing rest without complete surrender. As evening approached, the refuge settled. The loud work ended. The forest reclaimed its voice. Crickets rose. Wind moved through the redwoods in long, patient breaths. Luma listened, alert but calmer, her body beginning to match the rhythm outside her chest. Maya left a piece of cloth near the enclosure entrance, carrying the soft scent of human skin and soap. Luma approached it cautiously, sniffing once, then twice. She did not recoil. She stepped back, considering the choice, as if filing the moment away for later. Night returned without drama. No storms, no alarms. Luma slept longer this time, deeper, dreams loosening their grip. The refuge did not feel like freedom yet, but it no longer felt like a trap. Somewhere between fear and rest, something new was forming. Chapter to close not with healing complete, but with direction. Luma had learned that danger was not constant here, that some days bent without breaking. Beneath the redwoods, her story continued, moving slowly, deliberately, toward something she had not felt in a long time. Morning arrived wrapped in mist, the kind that softened edges and slowed decisions. Luma watched droplets gather on the wire, slide, vanish. Her legs still ached, but the sharpness had dulled into something manageable. She stood longer now, testing weight, learning the boundary between pain and control. Redwood Ridge followed its quiet routines. Caretakers moved like guests in a cathedral, careful not to disturb what was rebuilding. Maya was there, but so was someone new. Ethan, a senior tracker, carried the smell of forest and old smoke. Luma noticed him immediately. Experience recognized experience. Ethan did not approach. He stayed near the perimeter, observing the way Luma shifted her stance, how her ears reacted before sound arrived. He murmured to Maya, not about fear, but memory. Some animals, he said, were not afraid of now. They were reacting to before. Later, a simple enrichment test was placed inside the enclosure, a hollow log, nothing threatening. Luma circled it for minutes, muscles coiled. When she finally reached inside, her claws struck metal. A faint clink echoed. Her body snapped backward, heart surging, breath breaking into a sharp cry. The sound unlocked something buried deep. The enclosure disappeared. The forest became noise and panic. Her cries turned desperate, raw, tearing from her chest. She clawed at the ground, dragging her injured leg, eyes wide with something far older than fear. The refuge froze around her. Maya moved first,
It is about
lowering herself,
memory, Maya,
voice steady
not
but shaken.
fear.
Ethan followed, slower, recognizing the signs. This was not
That
reaction. This was recall.
is what
Luma
they
was not
sense.
seeing the log. She was somewhere else entirely, trapped in a moment that had never ended for her. As the episode passed, Luma collapsed, trembling. Tears clung to the corners of her eyes, catching the light. Not pain, not panic now, grief. The kind that arrives when the body realizes it survived something the mind never escaped. The truth settled heavy in the air. Ethan spoke quietly afterward. A trap site had been found weeks earlier near where Luma was rescued. Wire snares, blood, no signs of the mother. The metal sound had answered a question no one had asked yet. Luma had not just been caught. She had watched loss happen. The knowledge changed everything. Her crying had never been weakness. It was memory bleeding through time. Maya felt it then, sharp and personal. She adjusted how she moved, how she spoke. Every step became permission, not instruction. Luma needed safety to be proven, again and again. That afternoon, the enclosure stayed simple. No tests, no noise. Luma rested, eyes half open, tracking breath, not threat. Maya sat nearby, reading aloud softly, words without meaning, just rhythm. Ethan listened from a distance, letting silence do its work. By evening, Luma stood again. She approached the hollow log, cautious but deliberate. This time, she touched it once and stepped back. No panic followed. The past did not win completely. It loosened its grip, just enough to allow choice. The sun dipped low, painting the redwoods amber. Luma lay down beneath the fading light, exhaustion deeper than sleep. She was still broken in places unseen, but something had shifted. Her tears finally had witnesses. Her pain had context. Chapter 3 closed with understanding, not resolution. The refuge now knew why she cried, and Luma, for the first time, knew she did not have to carry that knowing alone. The morning settled gently over Redwood Ridge, cool air carrying the scent of damp bark and distant ocean. Luma moved with more confidence now, her steps careful, but no longer hesitant. The forest sounds returned to her as signals, not threats. For the first time, she listened without bracing. Maya noticed the change immediately. Luma's eyes followed movement with curiosity instead of alarm. Even her breathing had shifted, deeper, steadier. Progress was never loud here. It arrived quietly, in small permissions given back to a wounded body learning its edges again. A new presence joined them that day. Dr. Collins, a wildlife veterinarian with calm hands and a voice worn smooth by years of loss and hope. He knelt outside the enclosure, observing Luma not as a patient, but as a survivor with her own terms. The exam was meant to be routine. No restraints, no sudden movements. Maya stayed close, offering familiarity. Luma allowed the inspection longer than expected. Muscles tense, but still. Trust, fragile as glass, held just long enough to be felt. Then the wind shifted. Smoke drifted low through the trees, thin but sharp. A controlled burn miles away, harmless in reality. But the scent carried echoes. Luma's body stiffened before anyone reacted. Her ears flattened, her breath hitched. The smell pulled her backward through time. Firelight flickered behind her eyes. Cracking branches, running that went nowhere. Her cries returned, louder this time, tearing through the calm like a warning siren. The refuge paused, hearts racing as her panic surged. Maya froze, fear rising, unsure if stepping closer would shatter what they had built. Dr. Collins raised a hand, steady, urging patience. This was the moment. He said softly, not to stop the fear, but to stay through it. Luma paced, circling, claws digging into earth. Then something unexpected happened. She stopped. Her cries softened into broken sounds, confused, searching. She looked toward Maya, eyes wide, asking a question she had never dared ask before. Maya stepped forward, slow and open. She sat on the ground, lowering herself, making no promise except presence. Luma's breathing slowed in uneven waves. The smoke thinned. The past loosened its grip, inch by fragile inch. When silence returned, it felt earned. Luma collapsed near the fence, exhausted but intact. Dr. Collins nodded, emotion caught in his throat. Trauma, he explained later, does not vanish. It transforms when met with safety instead of force. That evening, the refuge adjusted again. Fire drills postponed, scents filtered. The world bent, just slightly, to meet Luma where she stood. Healing, they learned, was not about toughness. It was about listening when pain finally spoke. As dusk settled, Luma lifted her head toward the darkening canopy. The forest breathed around her, unchanged yet newly safe. She lay down without fear, not healed, but held. And for now, that was enough. Dawn at Redwood Ridge arrived quietly, the kind that did not announce itself. Luma rested near the cedar line, her body loose, breath slow. The forest felt familiar now, not because it had changed, but because she no longer expected it to hurt her for listening. Maya stood at a distance, holding the clipboard she barely read. Today carried weight. Weeks of observation had led here to a choice that could not be undone. Luma watched her with steady eyes, not pleading, not worried, simply present, as if she sensed something important had arrived. Ethan joined them, boots off on damp soil. He spoke in low tones about weather, territory, the nearby reserve beyond the ridge. The words sounded practical, but beneath them lived risk. Freedom was never gentle. It demanded strength Luma might still be learning. They began to walk toward the larger enclosure, one designed to test instincts rather than protect them. Luma followed without resistance, muscles alert, ears mapping distance and sound. Each step forward carried the echo of where she had been and the possibility of where she might go. Halfway there, a distant crack split the air. A falling branch. Sudden, sharp, Luma froze, body rigid, eyes flashing with old fire. The moment stretched thin. This was the edge, the place where fear used to take over. Her breath came fast, chest tight, but the cry did not arrive. Instead, she looked around, grounding herself in the present. Redwood bark, colder, open sky. The panic hovered, then faltered, unsure where to land. Maya did nothing. She did not speak or move. Trust meant allowing space for Luma to choose. Seconds passed like hours, then Luma exhaled, slow and trembling. The forest reclaimed its shape. The path stepped back out at the gate. The enclosure opened into something wider, rougher, honest. Wind moved freely there. Scents lay thick and wild. Luma stood at the threshold, weight shifting, eyes scanning. This was not safety offered. It was freedom waiting. She stepped through, once, then again. Her gait changed, lengthened, remembering what it meant to belong to land instead of fences. Maya felt tears rise, sharp and unexpected. Ethan removed his hat, reverent, as if witnessing a quiet miracle. Luma moved deeper, then stopped. She turned back once, meeting Maya's gaze. There was no gratitude there, no goodbye, only recognition, a shared moment of survival acknowledged without words. Then she vanished into the trees. The day moved on. Paperwork waited. Calls were made. Life resumed its careful rhythm, but something lingered in the air, a softness earned. Luma's cries no longer echoed here, yet they had changed this place forever. As night fell, the ridge settled into darkness. Somewhere beyond sight, Luma walked under open sky, carrying scars and strength together. She had cried because she remembered. She moved forward because she learned she did not have to stay there. The forest held her now, not as a victim, but as its own. And at Redwood Ridge, they listened to the silence she left behind, knowing it meant she had finally found her voice.